Baseball isn't just numbers, numbers, numbers.
This game is not being played on computers.
You don't do that with a bunch of statistical gimmicks.
You don't put a team together with a computer.
We're talking weighted runs created plus,
expected WOBA,
his sweet spot rate,
defensive runs above average,
average exit velocity,
barrel rate,
xFIP,
BABIP,
SIERA.
We are above replacement radio. And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing very well today. It is, as we are recording this, it is Wednesday, October 22nd. It is 2 days before the start of the World Series, so we have a lot to catch up on because there's been quite a lot in the last few days. We've had heroic moments, we've had heartbreak, we've had intense baseball, we've had the NLCS. There's just been a lot that's happened over these last few days.
Yes, very good way to put it. I would agree with that. If you want to hear our thoughts on the first 3 games of the ALCS and first 2 games of the NLCS, feel free to check out our last episode because we have already covered that. But yeah, we are talking about the last 4 games of the ALCS, last 2 games of the NLCS because that's all that was necessary. Just kind of talking about the series as a whole and getting into what the World Series may look like. It's going to be very blue. I know that. Fun stuff. There's going to be 2 national anthems, as there have been with all the Blue Jays series. But yeah, we've
all this pace
not
of play
seen
stuff. It's coming back.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
And we will we'll have the first time that'll happen in our lifetimes, 2 national anthems in a World Series. Yeah.
That's exciting
for a lot of people's lifetimes. But yeah, we will get into the ALCS first, as that was obviously much more exciting, both as a series and just on a game-by-game basis. We'll start with Game 4, where the Blue Jays, coming off a big
13-4
dominant win.
Yeah, win 8-2.
They had another dominant win. It started with their starting pitcher, Max Scherzer. He went 5 2/3 innings pitched, with 2 runs allowed, 3 hits, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. Not the prettiest Max Scherzer postseason outing ever, but
I mean that's about as good as it gets for him right now.
It got the job done, and he in fact became the 4th pitcher 41 or older to start and win a playoff game, with the other 3 being Kenny Rogers, Roger Clemens, and Dennis Martinez. And Luis Castillo did not have the best of outings. 16.7% of his pitches were in game day zone 5, which was tied for the highest in any game of his career. And he allowed 3 hits in that zone. Also, the Blue Jays were productive pretty much all throughout the lineup, but especially at the bottom of the lineup, which should be noteworthy because obviously that's not a normal thing for any lineup. The 6 through 9 in the order for the Blue Jays, they went 7 for 14 with 2 doubles and a home run. So it really was an all-out effort for the Blue Jays in their 8-2 victory.
I couldn't believe how symmetrical so much of this game was to Game 3, where, if you look at the scoring, the Mariners took an early lead on a home run in the first 2 innings, and then the top of the 3rd comes around. It's a leadoff double from the 8-hitter. It's a 2-run home run from Andres Jimenez, who, I mean, practically it was like same pitch, same spot that the home run landed. Like it almost looked like a replay of last night, of the previous night. And then a lot more hard hits, a lot more base runners continued, and the Blue Jays scored more runs in what ended up being kind of the inning that they took the game over. And in Game 5, the same thing almost happened, where the Mariners took a 1-0 lead in the second. There was a leadoff double from IKF, and I was like, oh my God, they're actually going to do it again. And Jimenez lined into a double play instead. But I couldn't believe like how symmetrical those 2 sequences were in the same inning.
Right. Yeah. It was it felt the vibes in games 3 and 4 felt very similar, where Mariners didn't really get an offensive rhythm. Not that they did terribly, but didn't rally nearly the same way as the Blue Jays. Yeah.
Scherzer had his best postseason start by game score since since Game 3 of the 2021 NLDS. That game was against the Giants. It was seven innings, one run, one walk, 10 strikeouts, three hits. Yeah, this was I mean, to me, this was like the tide shift in the series, even if the Blue Jays had won in a rout the night before. Like the fact that Max Scherzer was going out there and giving them that outing in such a crucial game where it was either, tie the series or go down 2-3-1. Like that to me was where everything shifted and it became apparent that the Blue Jays had taken the momentum back and had the upper hand.
Yeah, right. I mean, like especially a team where starting pitching is not their strength, obviously, pitching in general was not their strength. Offense was what has gotten them there and what has pushed them through this playoff run. So anytime you're able to like if you're able to get 5 2/3 innings of 2-run ball from a four starter from a guy who's 41 years old and becomes the fourth pitcher in MLB history to be 41 and older and 41 or older and start and win a playoff game. That's really huge. To get that out of a starter and kind of transition things back to the top of the rotation, which is what happened. And yeah, they tied it up there. Any more thoughts on game 4?
I mean, there was that moment, obviously, I feel like this needs to be talked about where Schneider went to take Scherzer out. He told him no, went out and completed the fifth, and then also went out for the sixth. I couldn't believe that he went back out for the sixth. I know he didn't finish the inning, but he got the first two outs and then walked Jorge Polanco, walked Naylor. But like it, and then the Geno single, which led to the Naylor getting thrown out at third. That was what happened in that inning, but very impressive outing from Scherzer. I feel like that's the big takeaway from this game. I know the Blue Jays scored 8 runs. I know that the bottom of the lineup contributed. Um, but yeah, it was very impressive, and it was just, it was not good enough from Castillo. I pointed out the stat: 8 out of 48 pitches, 16% in game day zone five. Five batted balls on the 8 pitches in that zone. Three went for hits. I believe all three were in the third inning. Yeah, it wasn't good enough from a guy that has had very good home road splits in regards to how he pitches at home, and that guy just did not come out in this game.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, just really no positives to really point at with that start with 2 1/3, um, one strikeout, one walk, one homer, 3 runs allowed,
Mm-hmm.
game score 35. Yeah, it didn't look great on his end. Yeah, not not the best to be outdueled by, a
41-year-old Scherzer.
41-year-old, even if he's a future Hall of Famer. It's Max Scherzer at this state of his career.
A 41-year-old who had an 82 ERA plus this year.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so Blue Jays tied it. Um, and we move on to game 5. Definitely one of the more exciting
I would
games.
say probably the best individual. Well, I guess that could be debated. One of the two best games of the series.
Yes, definitely. Bryce Miller had a good outing. A lot of people questioned to the point where a lot of people questioned him being pulled out when he did get pulled out. He had a 85.7 mile per hour average exit velocity, which was the lowest he's allowed since April 11th. Did you want to get into more of the details on kind of maybe the managerial decisions that went on?
Yeah, this was such a fascinating managerial series where one night, this night in particular, I thought Dan Wilson was awesome. Right, like he was correct on pulling Miller when he did, and the bullpen did its job. He made the right moves when he needed to make them. I said the same thing about game two, but he also had some blunders, which I'm sure we'll talk about. John Schneider overall managed a very good series, but just a brutal decision was to bring in Brendan Little to pitch the eighth inning. The Blue Jays were up 2-1 with 6 outs to go. Hoffman hadn't pitched in forever. I don't know if he had even pitched all series, to be honest. He was brought in to face Cal Raleigh, Jorge Polanco, Josh Naylor, which means there's two switch hitters. So, you're just simply not going to get the matchups here. You can either, you can do whatever you need, but lefty, And Cal and Jorge Polanco in the lineup actually have better numbers against lefties than they did against righties this year. Cal, a 113 TOPS plus, which means his numbers against lefties were actually 13% above his own average, which is already incredible. Polanco, 16% above average. And then, sure, you get the matchup with Naylor, but ultimately you're putting yourself at a matchup disadvantage, which, I feel like bringing in Little, part of the reason why they did that was because of the matchups. And that just wasn't there. And you saw it play out where Cal hits the eighth inning home run, the very high 43-degree launch angle home run, the tied for the highest of any home run in his career. They walk Polanco, they walk Naylor, and that was it for him. And then it was Gino who hit the grand slam. Or
Right.
sorry,
yeah.
he also hits a Rosarena, which was Sir Anthony Dominguez who did that.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, from a manager's perspective, it's a bit preventable. As you mentioned, with Cal Raleigh having a 113 TOPS plus against lefties this year, that means he's 13% better um against lefty pitchers than he is in, like, say, average circumstances. And TOPS plus is only relative to the own player's numbers, so it's not relative to the rest of the league. It's compared to how he is. So him being at a 113 TOPS plus against lefties means he's essentially worse against righties. And they brought in a lefty for him. And that's the same with Jorge Polanco at a 116 TOPS plus against lefties. So yeah, I think, it's something that's identifiable for us. So yeah, what were the possible options that he could have gone with instead?
I mean, I think you could have even argued Hoffman for six. I don't think he had. I'm trying to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he had pitched at all in the series before that.
Who, Jeff
I mean,
Hoffman?
he pitched one inning in game four, and he pitched in game two or game one as well, but not. How many pitches did he throw? He threw a lot of pitches. You could have gone Hoffman. You could have gone with, I don't know. Like I thought Little was just not the right decision.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Um,
Hoffman had thrown 12 pitches the night before.
um,
You could have gone straight to Dominguez. I know that he obviously didn't pitch a very good inning either, but you at least get the matchups there. More favorable matchups against the switch hitters.
yeah, like entering that um entering that group of hitters, like, you feel better with your odds with Sir Anthony Dominguez.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it was exciting. It was cool to see T-Mobile Park kind of be able to get rowdy in that series, as obviously they didn't have much reason to do.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was such a fun moment. The Gino home run. Like I know that Mariners fans are heartbroken and I get it, but like not that I think it's worth it, but I don't know. I think having that moment is at least something that you can walk away with, even if it ended in gut-wrenching fashion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, as like Red Sox fans in 2021, like, there's moments of that ALCS that we'll still cherish, even though they, lost it by not really showing up in the final three games.
Mhm.
But yeah, so yeah, the Mariners win that game. As you mentioned, it seemed like kind of Dan Wilson was pulling the correct levers. That, pulled out Bryce Miller after 4 innings. Um, Went to Matt Brash. Then Brian Wu through 2 innings. He did allow a run, but not via the homer necessarily. And then Gabe Spire throws a shutout inning, and Andres Munoz throws a shutout inning. What did you think about what what Dan Wilson did? Because a lot of people did kind of criticize him pulling Bryce Miller when he did.
I mean, I think the bullpen went on to only give up one run in 5 innings. Like I think the results kind of speak for themselves. Like, yeah, I mean, he had, like Miller was able to get out of some jams. Right. I mean, the fourth inning, there was that 2-foot double play that Ernie Clement hit into. Like he literally loaded the bases with one out. Um, on only one ball in play, by the way. It was a double from Lucas, the intentional walk to Vlad, the walk to Alejandro Kirk, and then he got Varsho to strike out, and then there was the double play. He got Jimenez to line into that double play. That was a 600 expected batting average, so that could have been second and third one out. Like the contact against him was there. Like I thought it was a fair decision.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
he also had a 23% called strike and whiff rate for the day,
not high,
which league average is around
which is probably around where
28%.
the Mariners were all series anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, naturally, when you're facing the Blue Jays, that number is going to be lower, but yeah, um, Miller was not necessarily like absolutely going through guys like a hot knife through butter. And he allowed, four batted balls at 600 plus expected batting averages. Um,
In four
so,
innings.
so yeah, it's not like he was sincerely dominating. So it makes sense that because yeah, you can't predict the future, but you can avoid avoid mistakes, I guess.
There was also
Yeah.
I'm sure you saw this, this was there was the George Springer hit by pitch in the seventh from Wu. Um, I can't believe I can believe he left that game, but I mean, like the fact that he was able to be fine the rest of the series and obviously have that big moment was crazy to me. This was mentioned on the broadcast. So the pitch hits off his kneecap, right? It registered like it hit him so hard it registered as a batted ball.
Oh my God.
It had Statcast had the ball off his knee at 55 miles an hour.
Yeah, because it's one where you could tell just by like
Alejandro Kirk had a seventh inning ground out that was weaker than that.
yeah, you saw how it bounced off of him and
Yeah,
ricocheted, and it's like,
in that
oh yeah,
same inning.
that one hurt.
Yeah,
Um, it looked like it, and yeah, I was worried because I kind of had a bias toward the Mariners throughout the series as well, and
sure.
I saw I like in game six I was like, man, if George, because in that first game it seemed like Springer was having a little bit more trouble with the knee than game seven. Like it seemed like he was doing the Adrian Beltre thing where he was going to one knee, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
if he pulls off like a walk off one knee home run
Yeah,
or
Bill.
the
That like
Mariners
that's
choke.
the statue pose right there.
Yeah, exactly. But no, he did it on 2 feet when he did hit that home run.
Right,
Um,
right.
but yeah, anything more on game five?
No, it was a fun game, and like game four, I thought it was also going to be a big momentum swing going back into Toronto, but no, it was not.
It
Game
was not.
six, the Mariners made three errors in game six, the most they've made in any game all season. And not only that, but there was like the base running blunder by JP where like Leo Rivas hit the long single. He only advanced to second. There was the obviously the Suarez error in the first inning. Like it was a poorly played game on all fronts from Seattle, on top of also putting up a 175 expected batting average as a team.
Yeah, not the best there. And yeah, I something I noticed just watching was like just a lot of rally killers
Yep.
throughout
Oh my
the
God, the double plays.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
two back to back inning ending double plays with the bases loaded and one out, and then another double play the next inning after that.
yeah, they had three consecutive inning ending double
Oh,
plays,
that was
which
awful.
is really rough. And I think definitely had a lot, contributed a lot to, win the win probability added stuff. But granted, I think, I know the Cal Raleigh one was hit pretty hard. It was hit at over 100 miles per hour. Had a 350 expected batting average, but it was a negative launch angle, so it was
Yeah.
expected to be an out, and in that circumstance, probably expected to be two outs. And I'm trying to see.
The JP
Uh,
Carver one was a bit more misfortunate. It was a 540 expected batting average, but wasn't hit hard.
Yeah, and it was more on the line drive end. I forget what it looked like, but I'm sure it was probably like a one hopper. If it was at an 8-degree launch angle, and then the Julio Rodriguez one was definitely should have been a double play.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean I mean credit to Trey Yesavage,
Wow. Yeah. What an outing.
to inducing those double plays. He went
Not the
five and two
prettiest
thirds.
line, but it felt like every time he needed to make a big pitch, he made it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's exemplified by the inning-ending double plays that he induced.
Mhm.
And yeah, throughout the game, he had 5 2/3 innings pitched, 2 runs, 6 hits, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, a 35% whiff rate. Logan Gilbert on the other end, he went 4 innings, 5 runs, 4 earned runs, 7 hits, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, 2 home runs allowed. He had a 47% sweet spot rate against, which is pretty far above average, and a 12% barrel rate against, which was also pretty far above average. And his four-seam spin rate was the second lowest of the season, the only lowest, the only four-seam spin rate that was lower for him this season was in ALCS Game 2. What were your kind of thoughts on what happened in Game 6?
Yeah, it was just I mean, again, Logan Gilbert again didn't have it. Like I mentioned the spin rates on the four seam, the slider, and the splitter all being down in game two. I kind of just chalked that up to him being on 2 days rest. He had pitched a decent amount in game five against the Tigers, and I figured, he just wasn't himself because he was on 2 days rest, and that would be not a factor in game six. But his four seam spin rate in game six was the second lowest of the season, only ahead of game two. So he still didn't have his stuff. It was you have it here, a 40 sweet spot rate against, a 12% barrel rate. Yeah, like it was just not good enough. Again, like I mentioned with Castillo, and that was kind of the case with him throughout the series in both games that he pitched in.
Yeah. I wonder if there was some fatigue there for Logan Gilbert that
It's also
because
kind of his road stats, right?
um oh yeah, I mean with any Mariners pitcher that
That isn't
does
Brian Wu.
tend to that unless you're Brian Wu, it does seem to take
Yeah.
a factor.
A
But
474, 224 ERA at home this year, 474 on the road. And we saw road Gilbert. I guess to be fair, we only saw
yeah,
home Gilbert. Well, that's not true. He pitched in game three. Never mind. Of Detroit series.
um, right. But it's the Tigers offense. It can only be
Yeah.
so dangerous. But yeah, like what you mentioned in when we talked about ALCS game two of what Gilbert was looking like, you mentioned that it seemed like maybe he was still a bit fatigued from his workload in the ALDS. And maybe that just kind of has continued based on on that spin rate number. Um, but um, but yeah, yeah, the Blue Jays just kind of simply outplayed the Mariners in this one. It didn't really come down
Yeah.
to a single moment necessarily. Just the Blue
This was the
Jays.
only this was the only game of the series that Seattle never let in.
Yeah, yeah, that is a good point. That is a good point. Anything more before we move on to Game 7?
Game seven, the two best words in sports, and boy, were we in for a treat with this one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. If we want to just go through the game sequence, it it starts in the first inning with Julio Rodriguez gets a leadoff double. Josh Naylor eventually drives him in, makes it 1-0 Mariners. But the Blue Jays respond in the bottom of the first with the Dalton Varsho RBI single, ties it up at one. Um,
Two out
J-Rod hits a
single.
2-out single, yes. And Julio Rodriguez hits a home run in the top of the third to make it 2-1. And then Cal Raleigh eventually in the fifth hits another home run, takes a 3-1 lead. And yeah, it seems to be going swimmingly for Seattle until we hit the bottom of the seventh, when Brian Wu walks Addison Barger. Then we get a single through the hole. I forget
IKF.
the measurements on that. Yeah,
90,
IKF
it
hits
was
a
a 380 expected batting average.
so fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Not too much on the luck side. Um, so yeah, a single there, and then Andres Jimenez bunts to move them to second and third. Um, and they Dan Wilson brings in Edward Bizzardo. And I guess before we get into the rest of the events, what do you think about just the discourse on what people are saying about the managerial decisions?
I agree. And I was saying it in the moment. I think I think that's where you have to bring in Andres Munoz. He had only pitched in 2 games of the series. He pitched in game 5. He pitched in game 1. Didn't pitch at any other point. And like sometimes, and we've talked about this before, but like for one, the biggest outs aren't always the ones in the ninth inning. You have the top of the lineup due up, and these are right now the biggest outs of the game. Um, and more importantly, like, and this is something that happened with Bizzardo against Springer. There's been a lot of discourse over the last couple of years of, people talk about starters going through an order a third time in a game, but there's also a lot of increased numbers when a player sees a relief pitcher for the second or third time in a series. This was the third time that Springer had faced Bizzardo. And obviously there's much less familiarity with Munoz. A lot, not only that, but with Lucas and with Vlad and with Kirk, you have that same thing. It's one out. Like, I don't know. I think you need to bring your best pitcher in there. And I don't even really think Bizzardo made that bad of a pitch. I mean, it definitely wasn't good. It caught a little too much plate, but it was a 97-mile-per-hour sinker, towards the lower inner third of the strike zone, a little bit over the middle. I think that's a pitch that most guys don't take out of the yard for a home run, but he happened to be facing the guy with a top 5 weighted runs created plus in the league.
Yeah, a guy who's the George Springer resurgence is one of the best storylines.
Mm-hmm. And even if you hate burning Munoz in the 7th, like there's still a bridge to get to the end of the game. Like, because I assume their plan would have been to have Munoz get 5 outs, and then you have Brash, you have Munoz, you have one of the starters if you're even feeling that bold, if you're still up. Like there is, even without Munoz in the 9th, there is still very much a viable way to get to the end of that game with the pitchers that you had.
Yeah, I loved John Smoltz's analysis when he talked about how George Springer increases launch angle by 8 degrees this year and probably led to some of the success that he had.
Yeah, I'm sure John Smoltz said that.
That was my favorite John Smoltz of all the John Smoltzes.
Yeah.
But
and he's always saying stuff like that. He's always like, you see, the launch angle is the key. And that's what George Springer did. He did a launch angle.
Because I was about to say, like, guys who dig out sinkers like that and hit them for home runs typically are
100%. Yep.
Yeah, guys who have higher fly ball rates. I could go to the bat tracking and see what the swing path tilt was like, but he dropped his ground ball rate by almost 12% or around 12% this year, and increases fly ball rate a good bit, increases line drive rate a good bit, and yeah, his swing tilt was a little bit higher this year, and his attack angle was also a bit higher, was 2 degrees higher this year, and I think that has contributed to some of his success, and I think even just one example like that, where you're digging a sinker out of the bottom third of the zone, that's when those adjustments kind of see full effect. And I think that was a good job on Springer by being able to put a ball like that in the air when I'm sure a lot of players in that Blue Jays lineup would have just dug it into the ground.
Yeah, no, that was my thought exactly. I didn't even think it was a bad pitch. I still would have gone Munoz. But yeah, like that's what happens in that situation. Like I said, you see a guy a third time, you know that a sinker is, on a what was it, a 1-0 pitch too? Like you're looking for a get me over kind of pitch, and that's what Bizzardo would do there.
Yeah, it was 1-0. That's correct.
Yeah, like I think that's how it goes.
Yeah, and so would your thought process be like have Munoz go through maybe the 8th inning and then bring someone else in the 9th?
Yeah, I would have Brash close it out.
Yeah,
my wholly unbiased opinion.
Yeah, well, I mean, because
that is probably objectively the correct thing there, right?
Yeah,
let's say it's still 3-1. Let's say Munoz retires the side. He gets Springer to like pop out or something. He gets Lucas out, and then it's Vlad, Kirk, and Dalton Varsho. So then it's Clement, Barger, IKF for the 9th.
Right, and yeah, with Brash had thrown the day before, but Bizzardo had also thrown the day before.
Threw 2 innings, didn't he?
Yeah, he threw 2 innings, albeit it was 15 pitches, but still, that's like more warm-up pitches that you have to deal with. all that, it's Brash only threw 6 more pitches than Bizzardo the day before, so it's not really a workload thing, I don't think. But yeah, and there was some discourse I saw about taking Kirby two out or to excuse me, taking
You
Kirby
got it.
out too early, which I kind of disagree with based
Yeah.
on what we saw out of him. He had a 92.1 mile
Yep.
per hour average exit velocity against. Um, it's not like he was necessarily dominating. It's just he happened to not allow a lot of runs. But it was not he was not performing that in a way that would indicate that he was going to dominate the lineup the second and third time through. Um, but yeah, so the Springer home run is obviously the big deal that adds plus 39% win probability for the game, and then a bunch of championship win probability as well.
19.05.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the most championship win probability added on a single play in ALCS history. The ALCS has been around for over 50 years, so that is a pretty big deal. The Mariners were not very clutch. They went 1 for 7 with 3 strikeouts with runners in scoring position.
Mm-hmm.
And the Blue Jays, albeit they only scored 4 runs for the day, but they did do very well under the surface offensively. They had a 35% line drive rate, a 91.9 mile per hour average exit velocity, and they also did not pop the ball up a single time on 26 batted balls.
Pretty
So
awesome.
yeah, I do think like it I was not happy that the Mariners lost this one, but the Blue Jays, in my opinion, definitely outplayed the Mariners in the
100%.
series. They
100%.
outscored them 37-30, and then they had a 820
That's
OPS as
yeah.
opposed to the Mariners 755. Like Blue Jays did really well in the series.
Yeah, no, they were the better team and they played like it in this series.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
Going
Um,
through some numbers, Vlad Guerrero Jr. won ALCS MVP, which is not too surprising because he slashed 385, 484, 846 for a 1330 OPS, and unbelievably somehow put up a negative win probability added negative 0.03 on the WPA. What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
I yeah, I looked I went to the span finder to see if this had happened in if like someone registered a 1300 OPS or higher with a negative win probability added. Apparently it's happened 10 other times in postseason history in a seven
How
game
many
span.
like with a in a 7 game span?
Yeah, yeah, and
Okay.
I know Stanton did it once. I makes sense. I think he
When did Stan in a seven? Oh, like it doesn't have to be in one series.
it doesn't have to be in one se
Okay,
I don't know if
okay.
I could
That
isolate
does
it to that.
that does make sense with Stan. It would have probably been probably been last year.
Yeah, either last year or even 2020, something like that.
That
Um,
too. Yeah.
but yeah, I think he did really well when the Blue Jays were up by like 6.
Hmm.
He had some moments there, but but still, I wouldn't put that against him necessarily, but because he
No.
did dominate and help the Blue Jays win the series, absolutely. Yeah, I put up 3 doubles, 3 home runs, had a 7% strikeout rate, which is really, really low. 96.2 mile per
Yep.
hour average exit velocity and 21% barrel rate.
Do you know who
Um,
was the first pitcher to strike him out swinging in this postseason?
I don't
That would be
know.
Matt Brash.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Brian
Makes
Wu did
sense.
also do it in game 7, but Brash did it first. He did it in game 5 with the bases loaded.
Yeah, Mr. Matthew Brad. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. The guy has a 31% career strikeout
Hmm.
rate. Matt Brash does. Um, and then George Springer continued his postseason resume. He slashed 276, 364, 690 for a 1053 OPS. He had 0.69 win probability added. He had 3 home runs, 7 RBI, 3 doubles, and a 22% barrel rate. Addison Barger had a 958 OPS. Josh Naylor hit 417 with a 1273 OPS. Cal Raleigh hit 240 with an 1105 OPS. He hit 4 home runs in those 7 games. J Rod hit 240 with a with a 1007 OPS. Eugenio Suarez put up a 956 OPS. So it was a lot of great offensive performances. One pitching performance of note, one individual pitching performance of note was Jeff Hoffman out of the Blue Jays bullpen. He went 5 scoreless innings with 1 hit allowed, 1 walk, and 10 strikeouts. I'm telling you, when the guy does not allow home runs, he is absolutely lethal. And that's kind of what he's been throughout this postseason. But yeah, what else did you have for the series?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, with a better team. This one was very hard to swallow as someone who was rooting for the Mariners. In terms of how to go from here, I think you have to re-sign Josh Naylor. I think that one's kind of non-negotiable. He hit very well in T-Mobile Park, which is, I think, very much a virtue because I don't think you can ever really guarantee that a team will hit this well in that ballpark, in any given year. Um, Cal even had better, home road splits. He was better away from T-Mobile Park, obviously. Um, yeah, it's a tough one to swallow for sure.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Especially given the historical context, they're only 3 years removed from breaking a 21-year playoff drought, and this was their first time back since 2022. And in 2022, it kind of felt more like not necessarily like happy to be here, but it didn't feel like they were necessarily supposed to make any noise. Whereas this postseason, especially how they finished the year, it seemed like they definitely had a strong shot to at least make the World Series. And yeah, I mean, lots of twists and turns throughout this
Mhm.
postseason. The LDS was crazy in its own way, and the LCS continued that. But I mean, in terms of optimism for Mariners fans, I know it's hard to find, but luckily a lot of the main pieces of this team are either locked up or under multiple years of control.
And
You
they
got,
also have one of the best farms in the league as well.
yeah, one of the best farms in the league.
Um,
You get the best catcher in baseball. Um, you got one of the best and most dynamic outfielders in baseball. Both of them are locked up on long-term contracts. A very stable pitching rotation that is all under multiple years of control. I think they're in good shape for next year. You just hope to keep it going. And also, luckily for them, the rest of the division isn't looking as hot as it used to, I guess.
no, I also feel very optimistic in the front office and ownership this coming off season because the last couple off seasons we've really looked at the Mariners and been like, man, what did they really do here? Because 2023 into 24, they make the trade of Gino Suarez to the Diamondbacks to free up some money. They get uh Carlos Vargas, who was good for them this year, but also Josh Rojas, like just didn't seem like that was a great trade. Last year they don't really make any impact moves. And I think that it's very encouraging that this team, one that Cal Raleigh has a lot more leverage now than he did before, because after 2023, Cal was going up to the front office and being like, you need to do more. You need to put us in a better position to win. I think given that he's hit 60 home runs this season, he's now under contract. I think he has a lot more leverage in, demanding what he wants from the front office. And on top of that, I think it's encouraging that, this team went all out more than anybody else at the trade deadline in terms of bond, led them to, I know it doesn't feel like this, but essentially the most successful season they've had as a franchise, right? This is literally the closest they've ever gotten to a World Series. Um, it is kind of sad that, being one win away from the World Series is the closest you've ever been, but that's what it is. And ultimately, you don't get there without Gino Suarez, without Josh Naylor, even if Gino had a very rough regular season, in August and September. So, I would be I'm very encouraged with what I think this front office will do. I think that, not only will they re-sign Naylor, maybe they'll re-sign Suarez, but I think pretty clearly like this team should be in a better position to win going into spring training next year than they were this year. And that's in a year where Kirby was hurt, Gilbert was hurt, Miller was hurt. Like a lot of the pitching wasn't there as much as it normally was. And it's like you probably saw the Chris Rose video, friend of the show. to be obvious regression. I agree with that in terms of Cal Raleigh, but this team won 90 games this year. Like there's plenty of room for improvements. Like this is not, I know that, getting the 2 seed and, getting all the way to game 7 of the ALCS might like better represent how good this team was by record, but 90 wins is like they won that in 20 they won that same number of games in 2021 and missed the playoffs. Like there is plenty of room for this team to improve, and I think they're in a good spot to do that next year.
Yeah, and yeah, 90 wins with, Gilbert throwing 131 innings, Kirby throwing 126, and Miller throwing 90. When we went into the season, we were the obvious narrative was how awesome the pitching staff was and how, mediocre the offense was. And I don't think we can really justifiably have that narrative, at least about the offense. And I think the pitching still looks to be in very good shape. And going back to the point of being a more aggressive team in the offseason, I think the trade deadline was such a great sign for them. Not only was it great for 2025, but I think it showed a good sign for what could be to come, because with the Mariners, for the last few years, we had gotten used to them kind of having a push-pull like method of going about things. Like with every positive move, there was some sort of negative move that followed, it seemed. Whereas that trade deadline, there wasn't any of that. There was no retooling. It was like, we're buying, we're going for it, and they were rewarded for it. So I think, if we could see more of that in this offseason, I think that's a very, very good sign. And I think they could end up being like the team to beat in the American League West, and not just like kind of a regular contender.
Yeah, I think if we're not talking about them as at minimum like a top 3 team in the AL, something went wrong this offseason.
Yeah, especially with the AL in the state that it is. With like the Blue Jays having the best record. Obviously, they're a great story. They're a good team. But
if Kyle Tucker goes to the NL, I think you could make a case that we should be looking at the Mariners as the top team in the AL even.
yeah, for sure.
Because I don't know what other big moves will happen this offseason, especially with a lockout looming.
Yeah, Mr. Yeah, I wonder how much noise the Murakami deal will make. As for some reason, that was the first guy that came up in my mind. I don't think
Most
it'll
of the
be
big name free agents are pitchers.
right. Yeah.
But do we want to move on to the NLCS?
Yeah. I mean,
All
lots of
right.
excitement over there.
Oh my God, what a series!
Yeah, it just one that we're gonna remember forever. I mean, I just remember like I remember watching that and I'm like, whoever's gonna win this is gonna be so excited uh when they get that final out,
Yeah, I
for
mean it's
sure.
gonna be this big moment of relief for the fan base.
Yeah, exactly. Like the wait is finally over. Um
The 11-month wait. Um, you remember that game 3 happened?
honestly, I'm looking at the notes and I'm
I
like,
was like, I literally that's what I went through the notes. I was like, oh yeah, like Mizorowski was awesome in this game actually. The rest of the Brewers for the most part were not. The Brewers
yeah.
had a 125 expected batting average as a team in this game, the 10th lowest for any team in a postseason game in the Statcast era that goes back to 2015. Uh, and even when they were hitting the ball well, they weren't getting much to show for it. They went 0 for 4 on batted balls with a 400 expected batting average or higher. We won't have very many nice things to say about the Brewers in this episode, so I did want to put a lot of notes on Jacob Mizorowski because he was actually very, very fun in game 3. 5 innings pitched it out of relief, 3 hits, 2 runs, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts, a 45% called strike and whiff rate, the second highest in any postseason game since 2008. That's actually the second time we've given that stat because Trey Savage did it first. Jacob Mizorowski passed him for second, but didn't quite get above Wainwright. Also, he became the third pitcher with 9+ strikeouts in relief in a postseason game. He joins Jesse Barnes in 1921 and Mo Drabowski, excuse me, in 1966. Yeah, that's it's New York Giant Jesse Barnes and Baltimore Oriole Mo Jabrowski.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I wonder what the circumstances were where they were getting a big relief
It's a
workload.
good question. Let me check. 1921 Jesse Barnes. That's the one I'm more curious about first.
I would venture to guess that at least
Because
one
he
of
was
them
pitching in
in
relief. Nobody pitches in relief
I
in
would venture to guess one of
1921.
them, at least one of them, was in extra innings. But
Probably a fair statement. Let me check.
I just know the 66 World Series, there were like barely any runs scored throughout the whole
Right.
series.
Right.
Like Sandy Koufax had an awesome start, but I think got the loss because the Orioles pitching staff just dominated the
Okay.
Dodgers.
Oh, no, this was so this was what game was it? Game 6 out of 8 of the 1921 World Series between the Giants and Yankees. This one went 9. Uh Fred Tony pitched 2/3 of an inning, and Jesse Barnes cleaned up the final 8 and a third. When 4 hits, 2 runs, 4 walks, 10 strikeouts, a homer allowed. Got the win in the effort, but the Giants would win the series. Yeah, they did do that one.
You think if TV existed back then, there'd be like a like a Pud Galvin being like, I don't know, with all these analytics and openers and all this, I don't get what they're doing out here.
Mo Drabowski, one of 6 players born in Poland, who also went to high school in Windsor, Connecticut. What a story this guy has. Uh, that's interesting. He pitched in World Series Game 1. It was a 5-2 win. Also went 9 innings. Uh, Dave McNally went 2 1/3, gave up 2 runs, and then Jabrowski came in 6 2/3, 1 hit, no runs, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts. Outdueled. Well, actually, I wouldn't say outdueled Don Drysdale because he only pitched 2 innings in this game, gave up 4 runs.
Oh wow.
Look at this is some pre-analytics baseball here. Neither starter in the World Series goes more than 2 1/3.
Wow.
The
Yeah.
game 1 of the 1966 World Series, which turned out to be a sweep. And wow, yeah, you're right, Chris. Not a lot of runs scored in this series. I guess to be fair, this was like peak Orioles pitching staff, right?
Yeah,
With
and
like Palmer, McNally, with Cuellar.
the mounds had not yet been lowered either.
That's true. You're so right. This is right 2 years before the year of the pitcher.
Yeah, the league OPS was like 200 that year.
Wow.
Um, no, of course not. Shout out Trinity College as well.
Yes.
I did not attend there, but I did job shadow there one
Nice.
single time. Um, Not a great area,
Mm.
Trinity College. But anyway, yeah, shout out Jacob Mizorowski, really, fighting for baseball to happen in 2027. But Dodgers just too good. Tyler Glasnow had a nice outing as well. 5 2/3 innings pitched, 3 hits allowed, 1 run, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts, 40% called strike and whiff rate, very, very high. He also used his sinker 30% of the time. It was the second time that he used sinkers 30% or more in a game since 2018. And shout out to Caleb Durbin. He was the first Brewer with a double and triple in a postseason game. Um, but uh,
Ooh.
but yeah, the Dodgers won again.
The Dodgers did win. And then game 4 was I only put one note in for game 4 because there's really only one thing that matters in this game. And I'll let you take that one away.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have heard, but he hits and he pitches. Look
He's
at
like Babe Ruth.
Shohei Ohtani.
By the way, okay, I hate to do this now. Have you seen people on Twitter calling Munetaka Murakami the Japanese Babe Ruth?
That's a real thing that
That's
people
a
are
real thing that I've seen multiple times on Twitter. And I'm like, we've already done this. What are we talking about? Yeah, Bleacher Report. People are calling him the Japanese Babe Ruth. Is he worth the hype? Maybe it was just a one Bleacher Report thing.
It'd
I
be
don't
like
know.
people calling like Matt Olson the Iron Horse because he
Yeah.
plays 162 games every year.
Yeah.
Like,
Murakami's never pitched, but he actually plans on doing it in the US.
yeah.
That'd be crazy. No, I didn't understand that at all. But yeah, Shohei, incredible.
Yeah. He went 3 for 3 3 homers, 1 walk. He became the 6th player since 2015, regular in postseason, with 3+ batted balls of at least 425 feet in a game. He also went 6 innings, allowed 2 hits, no runs, 3 walks, 10. He struck out 10, and he induced 19 whiffs. He was the first pitcher with a multi-home run game in the postseason, and the 4th player with 3 home runs and a walk in a postseason game. It was one of those games where, like, you know, you just almost click exclusively on Sarah Lang's profile and
Yep.
just
And she's got like
update.
16 tweets.
Yeah, you just update and be like, just give them all to me. I
She must
found,
have had a field day with that one.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The one nugget
Yeah.
I pulled out
And
was,
all the stats were hers too.
yeah, yeah, did not belong. It is Sarah Lang's TM stats. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
one
Because people take ownership over stats when they're tweeted. And then whoever tweets it first,
right,
as
yeah.
we all know, if you didn't see that discourse as well.
Yeah, one nugget that I was able to pull out and also patent myself was that it was the first game in postseason history with two batted, or postseason history in the StatCast era with 2 batted balls of 445 feet or further. So on top of everything that Otani did, like, he also did that. Like, not only did he hit the home runs, but he hit them crazy far.
Yeah.
There were
It
no
is
wall scrapers that he hit that night.
I think it is possible that's the greatest game we've ever seen played, like in the history of baseball.
I
Which
think,
is funny because you could also even argue it's not even the best game Otani's ever had.
right, yeah. I think yeah,
Uh,
it could be context dependent, but, like,
oh, of course, yeah.
yeah,
But I mean,
it's
he's
crazy.
never, 3 home runs and 10 strikeouts as a pitcher in the
It's
same game.
definitely the best single game performance I've seen in that state, in that, like, big of a stage.
Oh,
Um,
without a doubt. I think it's the best, like, combination of hitting and pitching game he's ever had. The only game that I would argue was maybe better was the 6 for 6 50-50 game against the Marlins last year.
right, yeah,
But
true,
even then, he
true.
didn't pitch in that game.
Yeah, no, he didn't.
So, like, you know,
Yeah,
not his fault. The rest of the team like barely did anything in that
right,
game.
true.
He didn't get 6 at bats in this game.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it was literally all Otani.
Yeah, he had yeah. The Dodgers scored 5 runs, 3 solo home runs by Otani.
Yeah, crazy.
All of them were nukes. All of them were hit at least 113 miles an hour.
Yeah, and then 6 of the shutout innings the Dodgers had were Otani's.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I mean, throughout the series, Otani had he slashed 357, 500, 1143, 1643 for a 44% barrel rate as well. Um,
hmm
and the Brewers as a whole slashed 118, 191, 193, 384, with an 8 weighted runs created plus, 31.3% strikeout rate, 55.7% ground ball rate. They only had 2 pulled fly balls in the series, and they were both hit under 100 miles per hour. And I don't think either go out of the ballpark, either
Um,
fly balls.
no. The Brewers I think hit 1 home run in this series.
Yeah. And they had a 34% chase rate and 34.7% whiff rate. Yeah,
Right? Am I right on that?
what were your kind of your general thoughts on the series?
It was bad. People are gonna try to push their narratives. First of all, I'm just gonna tell you full stop. This series does not warrant a salary cap. No series warrants a salary cap. This series does not warrant a lockout in 2027. It especially doesn't warrant a season missed. You will never find me pointing to a series or a game or any span of games that indicates we should do that. Um, People will, this was like a salary cap is not gonna increase the Brewers' OPS. They're not. It won't cause them to have had a over 400 OPS as a team in that series. Um, like I will not, I won't hear it. It's a dumb argument. Uh, yes, the series did go perfectly for people that are trying to push a salary cap. I still will not allow the discourse to uh become like accepted.
Yeah, I'll play devil's advocate with this one. I think what people are arguing is like, the Brewers' offensive performance is obviously pointed out, but they were facing a Dodgers pitching staff who are,
Sure, yeah,
the
like
starters
all bought,
are all on
but
nine-figure contracts.
also like I don't know, the Dodgers also just like they spend smart, man. Like you can't really point to a bad contract on the Dodgers. You point to any big spender, there's contracts that the team doesn't like. Like the Phillies have Nick Castellanos, the Mets have Jeff McNeil, uh, the Yankees, you could even argue have Stanton. Like there are bad contracts on all of the big spenders, except for the Dodgers. Like all of them, like the closest to a bad contract in terms of like ones with longevity that I think you could point to that on the Dodgers is probably Tyler Glass now,
Yeah,
right? And even then, he's only got 2 more years after this one. And it's the large part of the reason why it's a quote unquote bad contract is health. But he comes in and he gets the job done in the playoffs. He's had two very good outings.
yeah,
Like
and
this team, like they're wise with when they choose to spend. You can't ever you can't ever like rebuke that.
yeah, and what definitely helps in kind of our argument is like, the in term there's lots of ways to calculate payroll, but how Spot Track has it and what people have pointed out um, is this list where it's the Dodgers at 350 million, but the Mets are at 341 million. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the talent or the gap in talent is a $9 million difference between the Dodgers and
Nope.
or the gap in ability. I think it's, you know, the Dodgers obviously they spend a lot, but as you mentioned, they spend smart. Pretty much all the guys that they're paying the most are contributing. Like I think the worst guy that they're paying maybe more than $10 million this year to
Michael Conforto,
is Michael Conforto.
who's on
Exactly.
a 1 year deal worth less than the qualifying offer.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's a very low risk
Yeah.
operation. Yeah, there's yeah, it's partially that and like also the Dodgers always have a good farm system no matter what. It doesn't matter they haven't had, a top 10 pick in over a decade. I know that. Um and they still happen to churn out prospects like crazy and that's part of the reason why they have some of the players they do is because they have prospect capital to do that. That's how they got Mookie Betts. That's how they got Tyler Glass now. They just happen to extend them. It's not like they're not producing their own talent. A lot of the reason why they're as successful as they are is because they produce their own talent. They just happen to have the budget to and the will, most importantly, to extend those guys or trade them for guys that they can extend.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. I don't really have much to say on the Brewers, to be honest. Is there anything else you have?
Yeah, not really. I'm trying to think like um yeah, I think the argument goes beyond this. Like it's more of a thing like the Brewers should be spending more and not the Dodgers should be spending less. And we've
Yeah.
been talking about this for years, so
And people say like, well, no team could do all of these things that the Dodgers can do. It's like, yeah, you're right, but any team could have signed Blake Snell. Any team could have signed Glass now to that extension after trading for him. Like it's very silly.
yeah, and the Dodgers payroll is about triple of the Brewers payroll. I don't think the revenue is triple for the Dodgers.
No, definitely not.
Um so like, you know,
Yeah, they go
it's
out and
not.
they reinvest their revenue back into the team better than just about anybody else. And
Yeah,
yes, they happen to make way more in revenue than anybody else, but uh, like the wealth gap, the in reality is not reflected in the payroll gap between the Dodgers and some of these other teams in the league. There's just no way.
yeah, exactly. Like big markets are going to have advantage. There's advantages in being big markets, and objectively, teams like the Dodgers, Mets, Yankees, and Red Sox should be in the top five in payrolls. However, yes, exactly. The gap should not be as wide as it is in the spending habits. It's an ownership problem. It always has been, and unfortunately, the commissioner is controlled by the owners, and um, it's an owners league, so that's what it is.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that is it.
I don't know how they solve this in the other sports because the NFL just doesn't seem to have this problem. NBA doesn't seem to have this problem. I don't know why it's specific to MLB owners, and how
Well,
they
I mean, those
operate.
other leagues have a salary cap.
Yeah, they do. But it doesn't seem like they have. There's not an NFL version of the Miami Marlins in terms of
Right. No,
spending.
that is fair.
Like, because yeah, you'll see like freaking the Jaguars who are, Jacksonville is not a big market, but they managed to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on Trevor Lawrence,
Exactly.
who's not even a generational quarterback. It's just for whatever reason, they can do that, but I guess,
Yeah, in a capped league.
in a cap league,
Like that makes it more impressive.
yeah, but the Athletics can't hold on to any of their talent. They had Marcus
Oh,
Simeon, Matt Olson, and Matt Chapman on the same team.
yeah,
Um,
right. I mean, I guess to be fair, they did hold on to Rooker and uh Lawrence Butler,
true, true.
but those are on team friendly deals, and they're
Yeah,
Butler's
for
definitely
the
pre-arb. I don't know if Lawrence or if Rooker was pre-arb.
yeah, I think he might have had like 3 years left to control
Right.
before he signed that. But yeah, I mean we could run that I'm sure the discussion will come up next year plenty of times as well. Um
Hmm.
but yeah, so on to
Also, I mean, actually, I do want. I guess do other leagues have revenue sharing? Because that's probably where MLB has this issue where other leagues don't. Is if they don't have revenue sharing.
that's a good question.
I don't know if the other leagues do, but I do think revenue sharing is it's part of it and it's also not because you do have to spend a certain amount of money to get revenue sharing dollars, which is why like the Marlins are facing a grievance by the league at this time, and the A's were at one point um, for not spending enough. But yeah, that probably might have something to do with it. Is teams being like, well, I don't have to spend that much because I'm still gonna get all this money from the big market teams anyway.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
again, baseball is just incredibly profitable. It's 81 home games. It's a lot. It's TV deals for 160 something games a year. Uh, like that. Like I think the fact that baseball is like the one of the biggest guarantees for profit, even in sports. Like it's probably the NFL and then MLB.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Because I think more people watch the NBA on a game by game basis, but MLB has more games, and
Exactly.
that's
And
how they
TV
do it.
deals are very lucrative,
Yeah,
and it's
TV
and they're and
deals
they're
are
very and they're usually very local.
yeah, and also the
Like the NFL is more national TV deals.
yeah, and the capacity of major league ballparks are much bigger than like
Yep.
NBA arenas, for instance.
Yeah.
Um, so so yeah, that's that's
That's
how it
that.
goes.
But we got a World Series to preview, Chris. It's Toronto versus Los Angeles. It's Canada versus maybe Japan. I mean, this is a very fun global series. Like the whole nation of Canada will be watching, rooting for the Blue Jays. The whole nation of Japan will be watching, rooting for the Dodgers. And there's the US where probably most people will be rooting for the Blue Jays, but there's a lot of Dodger fans obviously in Southern California, and I'm sure there's plenty scattered throughout as well. Maybe some New York, Brooklyn Dodgers fans are still hanging on to their fandom.
Yeah, and maybe that Japan series at the beginning of the year will
Right. Will
will
pay
have a
dividends.
yeah, it'll have a kind of, tail end effect on
Maybe
viewership
there are
for the
people
World
that
Series.
fell in love with the Dodgers in March that are now watching them in October.
Potentially, yeah, I don't know. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I think some people attended those games. Seemed
maybe.
like it. But yeah, so yeah, it's a very blue series. The Dodgers won the season series in the regular season 2-1. They outscored the Blue Jays 18-7. And I guess the theme um, of the Blue Jays' success so far has been with their offense, as they've slashed 296, 349, 523. They've had an 89.0 mile per hour average exit velocity, a 20.9% pulled air rate, and they've also pulled 33% of their fly balls, while also only whiffing 20.9% of the time. League average is around 24%. Their ERA and FIP have been sort of underwhelming. They're at 4.36 ERA wise and 4.81 FIP wise. Crazy that you can have some underwhelming pitching and still win in the playoffs. What a
It's
concept.
crazy. I don't know. Well, I mean, see, this is where the Dodgers come in, Chris, because throughout the postseason, they've slashed 256, 328, 430. That's a 758 OPS, a little above league average, a 90.4 mile per hour average exit velocity, a 22.4% pulled air rate, 37.3% pull rate on fly balls, a 26.7% whiff rate, a little above average, but a 245 ERA, a 274 FIP. Yeah, you can have good pitching win if you have a 1 ERA in a 4-game stretch. Actually less than that in a 5-game stretch because they allowed 1 run in 11 innings in the clinching game of the division series.
Right, right.
So there is that.
Yeah, for
What
sure.
are your thoughts on this series, Chris?
I mean, you got to feel good about the Dodgers, obviously. They Um, with the Blue Jays, what they stick out with is their ability to make contact. They have the lowest strikeout rate in the league. However, the Brewers, uh, in the regular season had the fifth lowest strikeout rate in the league. So the Dodgers pitching staff has already dealt with a contact team and really dominated them. So, um, I think they could be able to handle the Blue Jays well. Obviously, styles, styles differ and different teams react to different things different ways. But it is a thing. I think the narrative of the Blue Jays making contact and maybe them being able to stick out against the Dodgers for that reason. I don't think that narrative is strong until it
It's
gets
an
proven.
incomplete narrative
Yes, exactly.
because they
Um,
also hit for a lot of power. They have a 227 ISO in the playoffs, the highest of any team.
Yeah, and they're hitting the ball hard. They're pulling fly balls. They're doing really well. Freaking Andres Jimenez and Ernie Clement are hitting home runs. So
Yeah,
like what you know,
right.
that's everything's going right for that offense. Absolutely.
I think it's very fun that George Springer is facing the Dodgers in the World Series again. That's obviously
Mm.
a flashback to 2017. I'm sure he'll get booed relentlessly out in LA like he did in Seattle. Um, Vlad Jr. versus Shohei as like a star versus star matchup in the series is awesome. Like that's incredibly fun. Like this is two guys that uh came up that were top prospects in like basically the same year, right? Like Vlad Jr. didn't come up till 2019, but he was a top prospect going into 2018. Um, and Shohei obviously was a rookie that year as well. And this is like two guys that we've envisioned, like, man, how fun would it be to see them succeed and live up to expectations and maybe even exceed them. And now we're here. Like that's very cool to me. I like that matchup a lot. It's cool that both of them won LCS MVP as well. Um, yeah, I'm super excited for that matchup, both on the mound and then, at the plate.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm sure it could lead to some cool photos as well when Otani gets to first base and you have those
Yeah.
two talking. Yeah, it'll be it, and someday in like 2038 there'll be like an Instagram back where it's like take me back to this. And
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
that.
I don't know. I don't have too much of a rooting interest. I hope the Blue Jays win just because I like that there hasn't been a repeat champion since the 90s into the 2000s. That's kind of my main, rooting interest here.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I always typically just root for the team with the longest drought and obviously
Yep, that would be the Blue
30
Jays.
32 years is a lot longer than one. So
Right.
I'll I'll uh I'll root for that for sure. And it would be cool, especially if they brought it back to Toronto to like see Rogers Center react to a World Series
Yeah.
victory again. Um, but yeah, do we want to get into predictions?
Yeah. I'm gonna pick from the heart. This is like honestly I say I'm rooting for the Blue Jays. Here's what I am also rooting for, and this is part of my prediction. I'm gonna say Dodgers in 7 because that's what I think is gonna happen, but I'm gonna illustrate how I want it to happen. If this series goes 7, we're getting relief Ohtani in Game 7. He's gonna start Game 4. He's on a perfect track to pitch in relief in Game 7 on a few days rest, and that has the potential to be something really, really fun. I think there's no doubt in my mind that if we go to a Game 7, that Ohtani will pitch in relief as long as it's a close enough game on either side. And yeah, like that would be something really special. Imagine a situation where like he hits a go-ahead home run and then pitches and then closes it out. Like that would be, we keep finding new things for Ohtani to do that we've never seen from anybody and new ways for him to impress us. I think that's the avenue for the World Series.
Yeah, for sure, dude. On the international stage like that, I mean, he's already wowed plenty of times on the international stage, but yeah, it would just be everything he does is just like it's like 13 cherries on top, like everything he's done.
Yep.
Like he did everything he had to prove from like 2021 to 2023. Everything else is just gravy, and it's just continuous great. Like had a world
now it's
Series
catch up
last
for all
year.
the things he missed from being on the Angels for all those years.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff he would have done if he was in the playoffs already.
Right. If he was in a serious organization.
Right. Yeah.
What is your prediction?
But yeah, so I've been a Blue Jays hater throughout the postseason. I mean, I even before
against
the
the
postseason,
Yankees?
Yeah, I had the Yankees in 4.
I mean, you were probably rooting for them, but you picked against them.
Oh yes, I mean, I was
Okay.
not rooting for the Yankees. I was happy that it went the way it did. That's for sure. Um, but yeah, even before the playoffs, I had the Blue Jays ranked 11th in my playoff power rankings. Shout out to you for getting that a lot more right than I did. I think
Yeah.
I'm number 4, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I had the Mariners against them, and unfortunately, I'm going to continue that. I have the Dodgers pulling off something that we haven't seen in I think 13 years, which is a World Series sweep.
Oh.
I have the Dodgers in 4 here, unfortunately.
Wow. So you got no competition. You got a repeat of the NLCS.
Yeah, and it would be
That would have them going 13-1 in the postseason.
yes, true. Which is hard to do for sure. And this going back to the sort of infancy of our show,
I haven't thought this. Yeah, the
I
team that
remember my
sweeps the
narrative
LCS.
about
They've won 2 straight though.
Yeah, I remember my narrative about teams that swept in the LCS not doing well in the World Series, like up to 2019 in the best of 7 era of the LCS. Teams who swept in the LCS were 1-6 in the World Series. However, in 2019, the Nationals swept and they won the World Series, and then the Astros also swept and they won in the World Series. So now it's 3-6, and now it's not really a narrative for me anymore.
No, it can't be.
And I think I've been kind of hyping up the Dodgers since mid-September and talking about their talent, and I'll just go with Dodgers in 4. Not a result I'm rooting for game-wise or team-wise, but yeah, I think that's what's gonna happen. All right. But yeah, anything more before we wrap this up?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, that shall do it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. If you enjoyed watching Matt Brash pitch on your television screen or in person, if you were lucky enough, feel free to check out our interview with him where we talked, his return from Tommy John surgery, as well as his journey to the MLB, his journey from starter to reliever, and all the cool stuff about the Mariners organization, how they run their pitching staff. Feel free to check out the Matt Brash interview and check out all our guest interviews on the guest interviews playlist, where we've had Chris Rose, Jeff Passan, Sarah Langs, Mike Petriello, Foolish Bailey, Mark Simon 4 times, among many others. So feel free to check that out. Also follow us on social media. Follow me on Twitter, @Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram @Daniel_Curran. And follow the show Instagram @Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you next time, where we'll be talking about some World Series action. Woo. We will see you then.
This conversation is over.